So, what if the answer to all the world's conflicts wasn't another political treaty or a big summit? What if it was something spiritual? I know it sounds a little out there, but that's the core idea behind a really ambitious proposal we're diving into today, the UBUMUD initiative. It's a blueprint for peace that says our political systems are fundamentally missing something important.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to set the stage and look at the global crises that sparked this whole thing. Then we'll break down the UBUM-UD framework itself. We'll spend some real time on its most, let's say, unique part, the United Masters. And finally, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, their 9-point action plan and the direct appeal they're making to world leaders. Let's get into it. So you gotta ask, right? Why this and why now? Well, according to the folks behind this proposal, humanity is basically standing on the edge of a cliff. They're painting this picture of a world tangled up in so many different threats that our old ways of doing things just aren't going to cut it anymore. And they are not pulling any punches when they talk about what's at stake. This quote really says it all. They're talking about a potential third world war or a nuclear catastrophe. So for them, this isn't just a nice idea. They see it as an absolute must for our survival. And here's the laundry list of what's keeping them up at night. You've got the big superpowers butting heads more and more. You have the ever-present threat of weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. Then there's nuclear proliferation, climate change hitting us hard, and just general geopolitical tension all over the place. The argument here is simple. Our current systems are just overwhelmed. They weren't built for this level of interconnected chaos. Okay, so with that pretty grim picture painted, what's the solution they're offering? Well, it's not what you'd expect. It all boils down to this three-part framework, an acronym, UBUMUD. And they believe this little formula is the key to unlocking global harmony. So let's break it down. The UB stands for Universal Brotherhood. This is the big, ultimate goal, right? The North Star. We're talking about a world where peace, unity, and security aren't just for a lucky few, but for every single one of the 8.2 billion people on this planet. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The United Masters. This is the heart of the whole proposal, the crucial middle piece. And it's a pretty radical idea, a brand new global body that's not political. Instead, it's spiritual and intellectual, and it's designed to work with the United Nations, not against it. And all of this work, this whole new structure, is meant to lead to the UD, Universal Disarmament. This is the tangible, real-world outcome they're shooting for. The goal is super clear. Get rid of all weapons of mass destruction, every last one, to create a world that's finally free from that shadow. And this is the absolute key to understanding their logic. The proposal says these three things are completely connected. You can't just pick one. You can't get to that beautiful vision of universal brotherhood or that concrete goal of universal disarmament without that crucial middle piece, the United Masters. It's the catalyst that makes the other two possible. Okay, so we have to talk more about this United Masters concept because it's really the core of the whole thing. The documents call it a spiritual upper house for the world, which is a heck of a phrase. The whole point is to bring a totally different kind of wisdom into how we run our world. But it's not about replacing the UN. It's about creating balance. And they use this really cool analogy from Hindu spirituality to explain it. Shiv and Shakti. Think of the UN as Shakti. That's the energy, the action, the global governance, the doing. The United Masters would be Shiv. That's consciousness, wisdom, the ethical and moral compass. The idea is that you need both. Action without consciousness can be destructive. So together, they would create a whole, complete global authority. And this isn't just some vague idea. The vision for the United Masters is incredibly detailed. They've mapped out 9 different organs. Now, you see some things you might expect, like a prayer council and a spiritual assembly, but then, look at this, it gets super practical. A universal court of justice, a universal monetary fund, even groups to tackle climate change and figure out border disputes peacefully. This is a full-blown, comprehensive structure they're proposing. Okay, so you've got this huge, grand vision. The next logical question is, how on earth do you make it happen? Well, the proposal lays out a very specific roadmap. It's called the 9D Universal Appeal, and it's basically 9 concrete steps for world leaders to take. And this plan is a fascinating mix of big declarations, symbolic gestures, and real on-the-ground work. It starts with a bang. Declare a global emergency on WMDs. Then it moves to symbolic stuff, like putting a universal symbol of unity on all national flags. But it also gets into deep, practical changes, like weaving these ideas into education and getting the media to talk about it. You can see how the steps build on each other, leading up to formally creating the United Masters and then the big finale, committing to getting rid of all WMDs for good. And that final commitment isn't just a vague promise. It comes with a very specific deadline. The plan is calling for the complete elimination of all nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons by the year 2034. It's also worth noting this date was actually updated from an earlier target of 2027, which shows this is a living document, something they're actively refining. So this all comes to a head in a very direct, very specific appeal to the leaders of the world and to our big international organizations. This isn't just a book of ideas to put on a shelf. It's a call to action with a very clear timeline. And they're not shy about what they want. They're asking for this whole proposal to be discussed at the UN General Assembly in September 2025. They want the G20 and other groups to start having dialogues about it. And here's the first major deadline they're aiming for. They want global leaders to formally recognize this framework on or before June 27th, 2027. So what's the justification for such a massive ask? It's all rooted in history. The argument goes like this. Major global crises have always forced us to create new ways of working together. After World War I, we got the League of Nations. After World War II, we got the United Nations. So the proposal argues, with the threat of a potential World War III on the horizon, isn't it time for the next evolution? Time for a new, higher authority to guide us? It is without a doubt a really profound and unconventional vision for our future. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. In a world like ours, full of complex crises and political rivalries, what role, if any, could spiritually grounded ideas like this actually play in shaping the future of global diplomacy? It's definitely something to think about.